You do a lot of talking before this? Good evening and welcome to Theatre of Dreams on World is One News. My name is Yash Jha. We find ourselves in such a puzzlingly great scenario. You think we've seen everything at this World Cup, yet everything that will dominate the history books is yet to be seen. It hasn't been 4 weeks since the greatest single sport extravaganza began in Russia. We are down to the final 4 teams. The semi-finals kick off in under an hour's time with France locking horns with Belgium at St. Petersburg. Our experts, former English footballer Ashley Westwood and Indian football star Eugeneson Lyngdoh, are ready to witness the latest and last chapters in this extraordinary World Cup. Gentlemen, thank you as ever for your time. This is when the boys get separated from the men, Ashley?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, the business end of the tournament is what they say. You know, this is where all your nerves will come out. Obviously, the big players need to perform, and I think that's what it'll come down to. That every team is well capable of getting through this semi-final. You know, it's tough to call. It's a flick of a coin, as they say. And I just think whoever of the big players turn up, your De Bruyne's, your Hazard's, your Lukaku's, on the flip side, your Mbappe's, your Griezmann's, you know, that's the first one we're talking about. If whoever dominates and performs to the best will go through, because each team has got a match-winning player.
So much to think of as a player, Eugene. You're imagining the stakes, you're imagining what's on the line. But are the best players those who decide to keep everything out of the head and just go out and take it as a normal match if they can?
Yeah, this is where, you know, there's a difference between a normal player and a really good player who can really change the outcome of a game. And as a player, you obviously look forward to these kind of matches. You live for these kind of matches. When you never know when you'll play a semi-final or a potential World Cup final. You never know when. So just grabbing the opportunity, doing your best, a test of character, ability, and nerves as well.
Yes, we've seen a lot of that already. 60 matches with a recurring theme of madness, a word Ashley has chosen to use a few times over the last few weeks. And it's all brought us to this point. It's already been some time since we said goodbye to the usual suspects. No Germany, no Argentina, no Spain. Then in the quarterfinals out went Brazil. And here we are on semi-final 1 at St. Petersburg. France against Belgium in what we're calling a generation-defining clash to decide who goes through to the biggest contest in world football, the World Cup final. If ever history didn't amount to anything in a contest, it is now. Only 2 players each from both camps were alive when France and Belgium last met at the World Cup. None of those 4 players were aged more than 15 months old. Ashley Westwood, the past doesn't make a difference here. Both teams with several stars earmarked to be greats, if not already, then certainly in the future, and fighting for the biggest present in the present.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's not many times you get an opportunity to play in a World Cup semi-final, never mind the final that's one step away. You know, it's a case of who can handle the pressure, who can turn up, you know, and give it their all. And at the end of the day, they've got a real chance to make history and make a name for themselves, if they're not already big names now. So it's going to be interesting to see, because like we've mentioned previously, everyone has a game changer. Everyone's got the capabilities of winning this game. You know, you couldn't pick a winner. There's so much between them. Even looking back at the clips, then what's got them the first goals in the quarter-finals was one was a corner and one was a wide free kick. So it's such small margins. It can be anything that settles this game.
Margins, yes, Eugene. That word tends to come up so often. We'll obviously talk about campaigns and tactics and all specifics, but it really does become about seizing a moment as a player right now in this stage.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you win, you lose, but, you know, like I've said earlier, a World Cup semi-finals, how often do you play once in 4 years? And how often would you get a chance to play it again? So, I mean, it's an opportunity, a great opportunity for each and every player to live in the moment, perform at the best, and potentially proceed to the finals.
Yes, and while all 46 will have a telling role in that in some capacity, the 22, the starting 11s are decided. Let's take a look at the team starting with Belgium, where there are some changes in the setup. Thomas Meunier, the first choice right back, is suspended. Instead, Moussa Dembele gets his first game of the tournament. Ashley, one change in personnel, but a few changes in setup, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one to call. I mean, we're trying to guess the lineup, really. Obviously, Meunier is suspended, so an enforced change. Dembele coming to a little bit of stick earlier on. Hopefully, you know, he's not going to be affected by that. But I think Roberto Martinez has been quite flexible. this is his preferred system, the 3-4-3. You know, it wouldn't surprise us if he changes it and goes to a back four and possibly played Chadley at right back. But what we do know is obviously the 11. We know that they've got lots of firepower up front, whichever combination they play with De Bruyne, Lukaku, Hazard. They've obviously got Fellaini that can pitch in on set pieces, as well as Kompany, Vertonghen. So it's a strong outfit, and even Courtois has been in fine form. So we're expecting a good show from Belgium, but we're a little bit, you know, guessing on what they're going to be. This is the starting lineup, but what formation we can't wait to see.
Eugene, are you expecting De Bruyne to be deployed in a false nine the way he was against Brazil to such great effect in that first half?
I feel it would depend on how France is set up, so potentially he could be doing that.
All right, let's also take a look at the French lineup. One change for them as well from their quarter-final starting 11. Blaise Matuidi comes back from suspension into the team for Corentin Tolisso, who in turn is suspended for this game. Actually, that one's more or less on expected lines.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Matuidi that comes in for Tolisso, like you mentioned. He has a little bit of flexibility, which sometimes he sits Kante a little bit deeper, and Pogba can go a little bit forward, so you play like a 4-3 through Matuidi. But that's what they did last time. Kante and Pogba protecting, Griezmann freed up in the hole to be the number 10, and obviously they're desperate for Mbappe to rekindle that form he showed against Brazil. Didn't quite do it last game, but he's certainly got capabilities and a fantastic prospect.
I'll get you to speak about the intricacies in just a bit, Ashley, but for the moment we're being joined from the ground. Brussels is brimming with anticipation as Belgium contests only its second ever World Cup semi-final, and I'm joined by Jack Parrock, who I can tell from the sound behind you, Jack, you seem to be in the place to be in Brussels at the moment.
Yeah, indeed, it's very loud here. The party is getting started. I'm on Place Pinoy in Brussels, in the Brussels suburbs, where they're having a huge gathering. They've been gathering here every match for the World Cup. To watch it on the screen behind me, the screen doesn't look that big, I think, in our shot, but it is a pretty big screen, and the people are here to party. They have high hopes for this Belgian team. They're covered in the Belgian flags and faces painted, hoping that their team can beat their nearest neighbours, France. France is a country that often looks down on Belgium in many aspects, including their footballing talent. But it's argued here that the Belgian team have the quality and the desire to go on and win this match. On Friday, when they beat Brazil, it was a gorgeous, balmy summer's evening. It's a bit damper, a little bit colder here tonight, but the spirits are in no way dampened and the expectations aren't either.
Yes, I'm glad you brought up that comparison with the neighborhood nation who you go up against. Are some of those fans behind you, Jack, annoyed by the fact that a lot of the bookmakers seem to have France down as favourites for this contest?
I couldn't hear your question too clearly, but I think what you were asking about is whether there are any people in French strips here in the crowd, and there are a couple, perhaps bravely, here to watch this match. They are nearest neighbours and they are good friends on many aspects as well. But the competition will be absolutely on a knife edge. I think many people are expecting this to be one of the matches of the tournaments, and perhaps to be one of the matches that really decides who wins this. England and Croatia on the other side of the draw in the other semi-final perhaps don't have quite the expectations on them to go as far. The Belgian current squad is considered here to be the golden generation. Around 15 years ago, huge amounts of money was pushed into the Belgian system. There was a lot of effort put into school football to try and increase the ability and to make those young players believe that they could go far. And really what you're seeing at this competition is the reaping of the rewards of that effort. The question is, will this Belgian team, will Romelu Lukaku be able to have a better game perhaps than he had in the 2-1 win against Brazil? Will Thibaut Courtois, the Belgian goalkeeper, be the hero of the night again? Will this match be so tight that it goes to extra time and penalties, perhaps even? We'll have to wait and see. It was so tense here on Friday night, and the tension is building ahead of this game against France again.
Yes, we did enjoy that report you sent out after the end of that Brazil quarter-final, Jack. Can't blame you at all for not being able to hear me. I can barely hear you given all the noise behind you. Go out there, Jack. Have a great time watching this game in Brussels, and we look forward to seeing what the reaction is like in Brussels and as indeed all over Belgium once the contest is done. Thank you so much, Jack Parrock, for your inputs from Brussels. Actually, you look at that. This is what a World Cup semi-final does. It's a pretty small country. It's something Nasser Chadli brought up in one of his pre-match comments, that we're only a very small country compared to France, but winning against Brazil, coming so far in a tournament, it does wonders to a nation and its mood.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, everybody, you know, brings the country together. Everyone comes out in force and watches it. If the games clash with work time, sometimes they have a public holiday. I know in England, I think 20 million people watched the game the other day. You know, you only have to look at teams like Iceland. You know, 330,000 people and 30,000 travel to Russia. So it does unite countries. It unites, you know, nations, and hopefully we're going to see a nice, sensible game, and obviously no trouble afterwards, which I'm sure will happen. And you just, like you say, the pitches there are fantastic.
From a Belgian perspective, Eugene, while neither of the two sides went into extra time in either of their knockout rounds, Belgium, you'd think, have had the more sapping contest. They needed to dig deep to overturn that 2-0 deficit against Japan, then the hurdle of Brazil, of course. How does it play in your book? Is the exhaustion greater or the momentum which has propelled them all the way?
I think it's the momentum. I mean, the confidence that they've got overcoming a 2-goal deficit against Japan. And, you know, going against a team like Brazil, yeah, and winning, I mean, like, it's just a boost. It's just added motivation. And, you know, I mean, the confidence that the player gets, you know, after overcoming these hurdles. And, you know, going into this game, they did feel confident, they feel strong, they feel a sense of belief in the team.
What Roberto Martinez did in that quarterfinal against Brazil was show a tactical flexibility which perhaps even took Brazil off guard for a bit. Is that we've seen how they're lining up in this game, but of course you know that they still have options remaining to tweak the system later on in the game. Do you think this flexibility, showcasing it at the biggest stage, perhaps adds a gear to the Belgian game, makes them a little more dangerous for France to read?
Yeah, I think so, because you're not quite sure, you know, what Belgium are going to do. I think we're pretty sure there's one or two things France will do. Belgium in the last game, they were completely aware of the threat down the left-hand side. Marcelo and obviously Neymar and Coutinho at times, so they were really scared about containing that. So the whole game plan was to falsify or make sure, eliminate that threat down the Brazil left-hand side, but also when we win the ball back, where can we hurt Brazil? They found a weakness, you know, the space left by Marcelo. If Lukaku, you know, took up that position in transition, we could get the ball into Lukaku, he could drive us up the pitch. Failing getting the ball into him, they looked at De Bruyne dropping off as a false number 9. So they had a couple of little strings to the bow, and it worked really well. At times, you know, they got it wrong once or twice, and Brazil had a little bit of a threat, but they also got a little bit of luck, and that's needed. You know, no matter what level you play at, you need a little bit of luck as well. You can't completely nullify each other, and when the teams do get in, because there are going to be chances, you hope that they don't take them, and that's what happened with Brazil. Belgium took theirs and Brazil didn't, so it's fine margins, and sometimes luck does play a part.
Lots of interesting matchups, of course, defining this contest, Eugene, but one very interesting switch in camps, which has been spoken of endlessly in all the headlines leading up to this game. Thierry Henry is a legend of French sport, won a World Cup in 1998, won the Euros in 2000. There he is, sitting in the other camp as Belgian third coach this time around.
It must be hard for him, I know. I mean, but this is football. I know obviously he wants to win with Belgium no matter what, but it's just that life is taking him that way, and it's a very professional world, and it's football. So I won't say that he'd be sad that, you know, I mean, like he'll have affections for France because of the game, but I think it's very professional sport, and I think
all right, we've got you the side from Brussels, where Jack Parrock was at that buzzing environment right behind him. We also have an input coming in from Paris. Elena Casas, I believe, is joining us from the ground in Paris, where the French too are anticipating a big night in French football. Elena, thank you so much for your time. Good evening to you. France had their own party a couple of years back at the Euros when they hosted it, but fell short just in the final. Right now it seems the country is buzzing in anticipation of a World Cup final after 12 years.
Well, Well, they certainly are buzzing in anticipation. If you can see behind me, what looks like tens of thousands of people have turned out here in central Paris to watch the match on an enormous screen, and their expectations of their team are very high. They were high going into this competition, and after the last two knockout games against Uruguay and Argentina resulted in decisive victories from the French team, they now fully expect they can go all the way. As you said, they were really disappointed in the final of Euro 2016 where the party was here at home, but in the end Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal denied France in that final game. Now they really believe that they can bring it home to where the World Cup, of course, was first awarded in 1924.
Brilliantly put, Alina. It's coming home is a buzzing factor resonating across all four teams surviving in this World Cup, and not just the World Cup and not just England. Thank you on that note, Alina. I'll allow you to go and enjoy the festivities behind you. Thank you so much for getting us that report from the ground in Paris. Ashley, we've spoken about mood, we've spoken about feel. Let's talk tactics now. Interesting shape-ups. You've already spoken about the Belgian lineup and what you expect them to do differently on the field with the two formations. Given what you've seen on paper right now, how do you see this match panning out?
Well, obviously, France, we believe they'll be the 4-2-3-1 with Kante, obviously, and Pogba sat and just being the insurance in front of the back four. Belgium have an opportunity with the personnel they've picked to maybe go 4-3-3, match them up. We don't believe they'll do that. We think he'll go back to the system that's given him, most of his success for most of the games, excluding the Brazil game. So it'll be a 3-4-3. But I think regardless of systems, I think it'll be the transition moments that are really important. So if we take, for example, France like to control possession, Belgium may concede a little bit of possession, and we know that the three central defenders will drop off, if you like, and the two wide players will drop into like a back five when they defend. They need to do that because they have to contain, obviously, the French wingers, if you like. Mbappe for sure on the right-hand side. It possibly could be Matuidi on the left. But then it's when they win the ball back. We know that France are going to try and manipulate the ball forward, but all of a sudden, at some stage, they are going to lose the ball. And when they lose the ball, that's where Belgium are really, really dangerous. I think we'll see Lukaku trying to operate in this position again. So when they get the ball, there's maybe a quick one straight onto Lukaku to try and break lines. And then the other key to Belgium's transition moments is Hazard popping into these kind of positions and receiving the ball in behind the midfield. And if Hazard doesn't do that, on the opposite side, it'll be De Bruyne. So you'll see a little bit of interchange with Lukaku and De Bruyne. Lukaku over this side, if you like, and De Bruyne over this side. They are supposed to be left and right, but like we've seen against Brazil, Roberto Martinez is really clever at finding those spaces when they win the ball back. So it can be just a quick ball into De Bruyne, or it might be the Hazard, or it might just be one down the sides for Lukaku to use his strength, use his pace, and start bursting down the outsides, and then the support will come. I think they're the key moments, transition, and that's for both sides, to be honest, because both teams at times are going to defend, and at both times are going to try and play forward nice and quickly and catch the opposition nice and expansive.
The players coming off a bench can have a telling role as well, Eugene, at times, is it not? We spoke so much about Thierry Henry. Incidentally enough, 20 years back when France played the 98 semi-final against Croatia, Thierry Henry came off the bench in the 31st minute. Both of France's goals in that semi-final against Croatia followed after that. So you can't rule out the players who might come on. Which of the benches, according to you, has greater potency if need arise?
I think they both have a great quality. They have both the bench have got strong qualities, and it will depend on the match in between how tired the players get. At the later stages of the game where it's going to be tense, it's going to be hard, it's going to be a hard-fought match, a lot of pressure here and there. So new fresh legs are really going to change the game.
Okay, I've heard the terms hard to call, tough to pick a lot over the last half an hour. I'm putting you gentlemen on the spot. Predictions.
It's extremely tough. Like we mentioned, the key players will decide that. I've just got a sneaky feeling, that's all, that France can have another gear. I don't think we've seen France at full tilt yet. And I think France to go through, whether that's penalties, extra time or normal time, I'm not sure, but I'm going to tip France.
Are you leaning with the coach?
Yeah.
As always, as always. All right, the time for talking is over. That's what the coaches might be saying in their respective dugouts as well. We're going to get ourselves set to watch what promises to be a riveting encounter. Thank you, Ashley, Eugene, as always, for your time and all the talking. Theatre of Dreams will be back on air at 6:30 p.m. IST or 1 p.m. GMT on Wednesday to look back at whatever it is that transpires at St. Petersburg. By then, we will know who out of France and Belgium will be one step away from the greatest glory in the game. Thank you for being with us. Enjoy the night. Goodbye.